K-Dog.
What's up, Joe?
You got anything you want to get off your chest? I'm assuming that's a yes.
Oh, just people. Just people. I will say, let's talk about pet peeves.
Yeah.
One of my ultimate pet peeves is having to repeat myself.
What?
If I tell someone to do something and I have to say it again, and I have to say it again, and I have to say it again.
Are we talking kids or adults?
Well, here's the thing. Kids, absolutely. Like, this happens with kids all the time, especially when my kids were younger. Like, 100%, I will lose my shit if I hear myself say something for the, fifth time. I will snap. At least with kids, though, there's a consequence. You know, it's your kids. You could be like, you know what? I've told you 5 times now. You still didn't do it. Now you're losing this privilege. Something can come of it. But when it's grown-ups and you're like, I have asked for this or I have said to do this multiple times, what do you do when you're not the parent and you can't take away their privileges?
See, you're too nice of a person. And you do not allow natural consequences to affect people. You look out for them and you nurture them and whatever. And it hurts your feelings a little bit when it's not reciprocated.
Yeah.
And, you know, like with a kid, you're like, hey, take a jacket with you, right? You say it one time, you whisper it, right? And if they take it, cool. And then later on, they're like, I'm so cold. You're like, little shit, you should have freaking listened to me. And then I'll repeat that pattern overall. And they're like, I'll listen to the whisper. My wife taught me this. She kindergarten teacher at the time. Mm. And all the other kindergarten teachers were high volume screamers. And they got frustrated by kids not listening to them. And so what she said is she does the opposite. She says it one time, and the calmer and quieter that she says it, the more they listen to it, because they know it's not
gentle parenting.
But it's only gentle on the distribution side. The repercussion side is all freaking you. Don't touch the burner. If your hand's on fire, that's on you. And you get one shot at it. And if the respect is that they know that you're only going to repeat it once, and you know they're going to carry the burden all on their own if they don't listen to you, they figure that math out pretty quick, that if they're going to be stupid. Now, if you repeat yourself and then you cushion their fall on the repercussion side, then they don't trust, those words. But if you let them hit the pavement at 50 miles an hour, that only happens a couple times before they're like, maybe we'll listen next time.
Yeah.
But you got to let pain happen.
I mean, yeah. And again, it's easier with the kids. My husband and I feel like we're saying these things like, oh, because the grown-ups that have gone through childhood and have been alive for 40-something years, oh my God, we actually know what we're talking about. Imagine that. But like you said, if I say, get your coat, and you don't, you're now going to freeze. If I say, hey, put this away, or the dog's going to get it and destroy it, and the dog destroys it, look, I told you multiple times.
100%.
I don't want to hear it. But what do you do when it's a grown adult and it's your job to make sure what they do gets done, and you have asked once, twice, 3 times, 5 times?
Well, you have to
That's where this comes in.
You have to segment off, and that adults are not somehow not kids anymore. They are just older kids,
especially men.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you do, like, whatever works with kids works with adults too. But for some reason, we treat adults differently. Like, we give them an extension of something they don't deserve, and they don't deserve to go freeze. Like, you want to rescue them when they make bad decisions, and then they're in the cold and they're freezing. I say, like, let them freaking freeze and be miserable in the moment. Cut that, umbilical cord off from them and treat them like the 5-year-olds that they are. If you keep treating them like 5-year-olds, they keep acting like 5-year-olds. Speaking of 5-year-olds, here's what I want to talk about, because I'm pissed off about this.
At a 5-year-old?
Well, yes.
Oh, God.
No, not 5-year-olds, but
okay.
Adult 5-year-olds.
Oh, gosh.
So this is about unions and the A specific union is now picketing against Amazon 6 days before Christmas, the Teamsters Union.
I have not heard about this.
All right, so let me tell you about it.
Okay.
All right, so the Teamsters Union, big organization, lots of political, they got a little muscle in the political scene. And
They're called the Teamsters Union.
the Teamsters, yes.
Oh, I don't know about this. Go on.
And so they want more money for their Amazon delivery drivers, the contracted drivers. And so what they do is they wait a couple days before Christmas. And then they strike saying, we're not going to deliver your Christmas gifts. We want more money. And I disagree. Like, you know what? Negotiation between two people, have at it. Air your grievances. I'll air mine. Let's come to some kind of central point between the two sets, right?
Yeah.
But when you start blackmailing and leveraging and using situational advantage,
Yes.
when the person that's going to experience what you're doing has nothing to do with it whatsoever. So, for instance, like teachers' unions, or unions in general in education. When money is tight in an education system, what do they do first? They strike on the busing side. They
Yeah.
strike on the busing side because that will affect parents the most, and they're more likely to put political pressure on administration to approve whatever, it's an advantage on the
Yeah,
negotiation
yeah.
side because now you've pissed off the parents. Well, why did you pick that one? If the money was tight, why was busing the first thing you went to? Because there's political advantage in it. So this Prime delivery, Amazon delivery, contracted workers, you're going to take little Billy, who's not going to get his Christmas present, and use him as a component of leverage
Monsters.
to get more money. You are
Yes.
a new form of evil.
You're a monster.
You're a monster.
Yes.
Is it successful? Is it advantageous? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Amazon more likely to be the better person and pay more wages so that Billy doesn't get disappointed on Christmas? Yeah. But you are a Satan if you use Billy and his Christmas experience to get what you want. And, I was just taught from super young to treat people how you want to be treated. And there's not a single person who would say, if you want some kind of advantage, to victimize someone else to get an advantage and call that a virtue of any kind.
So, I mean, I agree 100%. That's such a shitty thing to do, and it's shitty timing. So what would you say? I always try to say devil's advocate.
Yeah, advocate the shit out of it.
Devil's advocate. If they are like, but listen, if we bring this up at a more convenient time for shoppers, we don't get listened to because we don't have this leverage. We can go to our heads and the powers that be and say, listen, I think we're getting unfair wages and we would like more money and we would like more benefits or whatever it is. And it's a slow season right now and we have time to discuss this. Do you think those figureheads will seriously consider and look?
You just lose. And if you don't have a good argument, you just lose and you have to say, okay, so union, the theory of union, I agree with. Okay, so what is union? What is the purpose of a union?
Isn't it sort of to make sure that people aren't getting screwed over,
No,
so to speak?
No, not at all.
What is it?
Okay, so let's just say I have.
It's in no way helpful for that.
No. Like, that
Okay.
might be a benefit where, like, if you see some kind of, like, fringe, a fringe benefit, yes, for sure. But the market sets what is permissible and what not. So let's just say I work at GM and I sweep the floors. And GM can afford to pay me $80 an hour to sweep floors. So I have two things, whether or not GM can afford me to sweep floors, or is there somebody willing to do what I do? Like, there's a line of people who would sweep floors for $27 an hour. So the market would say, what is the demand and how many people are in that line that would be willing to do what you do and totally appreciate $27 to sweep a floor versus they can afford it. So you got a BMW in your driveway. You can afford $10,000 to paint your house. The market value might be $2,500 to paint your house, but you can afford it. How much would you be willing to say, well, I'm going to pay $10,000 way above what the market value is because I can afford it, versus like, can Amazon pay their drivers more? Absolutely. What is the market value for paying a driver to do something? Do we want it to be what they can afford or what the market should support?
Yeah, I mean, some people are like, oh, well, if you're swimming in the dough, you should be giving more to people, even though it doesn't really work. It's not so much justified by what's coming in or what's average.
And that's a standard. Like, you have to ask the question how you would want to be treated. Do you want the painter to set his rate based on what you can afford? Or what is a good value to give to the person that's eventually buying your product? And labor is basically buying your product. Are you giving good value for what I have to expense to buy that value? And if there's a line of like one person and I need three, I have to raise what I'm willing to pay to get three where there was one. Now, a sweet deal would mean to make scarce something that, you know, like let me say there's a line of 1,000 people who would sweep the floor for $27 an hour. A union is going to make it scarce so that I can't hire the people that want the job at $27. I have to use this guy and I have to inflate his value above where the market would hit, and he's got $87 to sweep the floor. Right? That's a sweet deal, which nobody in the world would want to be treated that way. Right?
Yeah.
And so it breaks the first golden rule. Like, okay, so if someone was dealing with me, I would want to make sure you were giving me good value and I was giving you good value. And as long both of us were happy, we'd both stay in the negotiation and we'd continue the relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's only when sweet deals happen where there's nobody in the world that would come into that value and say, oh, so we have a guy who wants to sweep the floor at $87 and he wants $90 an hour. But there's 1,000 people who want to do it at $30 an hour and they'd be absolutely sublimely happy doing that. Why can't we just go to the people who'd be willing to do it? Why do we have to sacrifice for this guy to make $90 an hour? That's when it gets like sweet deal thing. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So what should happen? So Amazon, if the market was true, would be able to say, all of the employees that are happy making what they make to deliver products, cool. Anybody who wants to bail out and renege on the negotiation, bail out, and we'll hit the line with people who are willing to make whatever. If we run out, then I got to inflate the wages for those people and bring in new people.
So really then, yeah, it's sort of, if you don't like it and you think you can make money elsewhere, then go elsewhere.
100%.
But then if I can't find anyone else to replace you, I'll have to pay more.
100%. So if we broke up, right? We're in a relationship. I love you so much, but I want to make sure that this is real. So I want you to go out there and date 10 people, right?
See if the grass is greener, so to
If
speak.
any of those 10 people are better with what you have, then you are free to go date somebody who's absolutely better than me. So going into it, I know that the competition is going to magnify my weaknesses. So I have the choice to up my weaknesses and not be weak in the areas, to attract you and make sure that you're part of this relationship. Or if they're better out there, go be happy with somebody else. And now you, as a consumer, have to weigh whether or not what you're giving up is lower than what you can get on the free market, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if I was a union, I would put stipulations that you are only allowed to date people who are dead, right? And it's limited in the fact that I know that I'm going to win that bargain because I've limited the people who you can then choose from. But if I give you free reign, go hit the entire marketplace and see if when we break up that I'm as good as I think I am. And if I'm not, I've got to increase the benefits of being in a relationship with me. And then you go sample 10 other relationships and say whether or not they're better than the one that you already had.
But if a driver says, I really like this job. I like it here, but I need to be making more money.
Yes.
And I think I should be making more money.
Right.
And the person says, you know what? This is what I pay. And if you think there's better, then go and find better. And they quit and they leave. Then you can't find anyone else. So you do raise your pay. And that driver says, hey, I'd like to apply and work there now.
100%.
Do you hire them back?
100%.
You think they're going to do that?
It doesn't matter if they do. If there's a line of people that are willing to work for that rate, you were at the top of the line and you can say yes or no, and you just move to the next person in line.
If someone quit because they couldn't get a raise.
Yes.
And then came back and said, hey, now that you have raised your pay, I want my job back. You're going to hire them back.
Mathematically, yes.
Do you think most people would have that? Or do you think you'd be like, what the hell, dude? You
Well,
just quit on
it
me.
doesn't matter. That's one of the considerations, that the thing you have versus the thing that you think you can get. Like, that's your risk, not mine. Like, the job pays for what it is. And so if I have internet and it's $100 a month, and new customers I'm offering $150 a month. Or, I'm sorry, $75 a month. Mm-hmm. And you as a consumer, you're like, all I have to do is quit you and I can come back on a rate that's more advantageous to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of silly, but if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do.
That's kind of like, have you ever walked into a store, like to get food or something, like a restaurant, not like a sit-down restaurant, but somewhere you go and you order food. And they're like, oh, yeah, you get this, buy one, and then on your next visit, you get whatever. And you're like, well, can I just use it now? No, it's for your next visit. I said, I can go outside and come back in if you'd like me to. Or you could just use it now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and honestly, those benefits of and that's what's most important, is that you have a one-to-one negotiation. If we're in a relationship and I'm giving you all the advantages, you have the ability to say yes or no, but I also have the ability to say yes or no. It's only when I take your yes or no or my yes or no away that's no longer negotiation. It's a forced deal. And when unions do what they do, when they start leveraging things, they try to control the yes and no and your options after the yes and no, right? So I want to say, I'm going to be a total dick and not deliver packages to Billy for Christmas. But also, you're not allowed to go to the next person in line who will totally deliver packages to Billy. If you have controls of both sides, it's not a fair negotiation, because it is limited, right? It is skewed to your direction where you have all the advantage and I have none.
How do you feel about non-compete agreements? Have you ever had to sign a non-compete?
I did. Yeah. And there's been times when I have also forced other people to sign non-competes.
Yeah, like for 1 year or 6 months or whatever, you cannot work for a competitor,
right,
so to speak. Are you into those?
I like market. So I want to be able to break up with you and you choose me every time because of my benefits, right?
Yeah.
And I want to regularly break up with you so that you keep choosing me. And I want to take all of my principles and align them so that you choose me every time, right? Mm-hmm. So if the floor sweeper was really good at their job, then the GMs of the world would jump at taking that guy over the next guy in line. But you got to have value. Like, you got to have something in trade that would make me choose you. There's got to be something about you that's valuable enough to make me say yes.
Yeah, it's almost like if you are going to the negotiating table, so to speak, and you're trying to get more money, what's more advantageous to have? A list of reasons that you personally are valuable to this company, or, well, I could go elsewhere and get more.
Right.
Or other people are paying more. Like,
so if you feel on your side of the table, if you feel like you can break up and you feel strongly about that, then do it. Mm-hmm. And if the Amazons of the world feel like they can break up, then frickin' do it. And just let the market dictate what happens next. If there's another guy in line that will do that job to that same level for that same rate, then the market managed an equilibrium. But if you're at $80 or $90 a sweep floors and there's a guy that would do it at $30, that's a sweet deal that sort of took the marketplace and shielded it from market forces.
Mm-hmm. I had such a cool experience one time. It was a little off the subject, but I turned in a notice one time, a 2 weeks notice for a job that I was at for a couple of years. And I was going to go elsewhere. And I took it to my boss and I said, by the way, here. And he opened it and he read the first 2 lines and he went, no. And he tore it up and he's like, no, have a seat. Let's talk because that's not happening. And I was like, okay. And because I feel like if I were just any Joe Schmo he could hire, and it was a job that turnover rate was very high, to have someone there years was pretty rare. He could have easily replaced me in a couple of days, but he was like, oh no, because I know the next one will not be as valuable. Make yourself that.
More valuable.
Yes.
For sure.
Yep.
In the marketplace, when you don't have a sweet deal, it means that if you're not valuable, you can be replaced. And if you are valuable, you will be rewarded. That's the true nature of the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have another topic.
Go ahead.
Look, can we talk about, and I know we've done this multiple times, but I keep seeing it and I got to bring it up again.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy. Ugh. Do people know that what you read on the internet and what you hear on the news is not always true? Am I spoiling this? Is this like brand new information for some
Everybody's
people?
like, no.
Listen.
The news is not
FYI, not everything you hear in the news is accurate. Have you heard about the Kennedy wanting to get rid of the polio vaccine and all these Kennedy memes like, oh, was shooting up heroin for years, but now wants to tell people vaccines are dangerous and all this bullshit. And I'm just like, I can't with you people. I can't. I saw this whole long video, this explanation of the people that were involved in this. Kennedy went to, what country was it? Oh, what country was it? They were talking about the polio vaccine. I can't think of it at the moment. Went there and is trying to abolish this vaccine. And everyone's like, what are you doing? Why would you get rid of the polio vaccine? He's going to bring back polio. He's going to endanger lives. He's going to do this and that. And the only shred of truth to that entire story is, yes, Kennedy has been to that country before. He's not abolishing a polio vaccine. He's not saying people shouldn't take a polio vaccine. He wants regulations on one of them. Not all of them. There are multiple. One of them, he would like more testing done and more information about how it affects children. And yes, he happened to be in this country, not there to abolish a vaccine. And I'm just like, people will find something to back up whatever they want to believe, regardless of the truth. And the hypocrisy is so ridiculous when they will then see someone else do it that they want to support, and they come up with all these ways to be like, oh, look what they're doing, and isn't that great? And look at the raw deal they're getting from the other side. Oh, you mean like you just did to this person? Drives me nuts.
This is a really great intro to Sweet Deal. Have you ever seen the... What?
I'm trying to drink this, but
you're
awful.
Drinking bourbon straight.
I have never in my life done this. And I see why.
Welcome to the party.
It has taken everything in me to not cringe with every sip, and I just can't do it anymore.
Don't waste that shit.
No. I need it today. I don't care what it tastes like. Go on.
Sweet Deal.
Sweet Deal.
Have you ever seen the series, the show on, I believe it's Apple maybe? Loot.
Loot?
Loot. L-O-O-T.
No. Should I
Maya
watch it?
Rudolph.
Ooh, I like her.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
And it is about someone who came for money, had a relationship that supplied her with a never-ending supply of that money. And the dilation of perspective between what is real and what is completely skewed I refer to it always as the sweet deal. Anybody who has a deal that sort of goes beyond what market forces would say. So market forces. So if you bought a dozen of eggs, you have sort of like a perspective or, a personal relationship with you and eggs, right? Me buying eggs, how much it costs, what the benefit is on it. Mm-hmm. Okay? And loot skews that perspective of people who do not have a calibration between what things are and what things cost and the relationship of those things. And we have a society who have this totally miscalibrated things of what they are and what they actually cost. And most of society is in that middle range of having no relationship between what they actually are. So like when you go out in public and you go to a restaurant, you think of a consumer as to what your dollar wields and what you're what you're entitled to. Mm-hmm. But what about as a consumer, what you're responsible for in relation to what that dollar buys? It's disconnected, right?
Yeah. As a consumer, what your responsibility is?
As a consumer. Like the value of you interacting with a waiter, waitress, food services, sitting at the table, occupying that seat, like you had total responsibility. You're a paying customer, but what is due to you as a consumer and what is your responsibility back to the person providing that service?
Okay. You want to know specifically? Or is this sort of how loot works?
Philosophical.
Yeah. So are you talking about like if a customer goes into a restaurant and they spend so much money and they want to be like, oh, well, I better get something for this money. How big are the portions? What's the meal like? All these things. But it's, hey, also consider that you were using their resources, their staff,
100%.
Their electricity, their heating or air, their everything it takes to even be there to offer this to you.
Yes.
Is not even in their mind.
Yeah.
Typically.
So let's just say the restaurant industry says when you sit at a table that you are a 45-minute patron. So any minute above 45 minutes means that you cost them more in resources by having conversations.
Yeah, if you're just hanging out. No, we're good. Can I get you anything else? No. But you sit there for an hour or two more.
So a person that shows up for 20 minutes and has a quick business meeting and pays their bill and leaves, and then you have a social meeting where you spend an hour and a half, you cost the establishment more money than the business meeting did. So you are a liability to that table and that server and that restaurant. Do you owe them more than the business meeting who showed up for 30 minutes or 45 minutes and stayed within their time frame?
Oh, this is so interesting because my mom and some people, she went to dinner one time and she was talking about this restaurant that was very rude in her words. And she said, we show up and it is their busy night. I don't know if it was like a Friday during Lent or something where a lot of restaurants were very busy. And a lot of times they'll either say, we're not even seating you till everyone's here. Or in this case, they were waiting on one more person, but they were sat. And they said, okay, are you guys ready to order? And they're like, well, no, we just sat down and we're still waiting for someone. Well, they said their server said, can you call them and just ask them what they want? And they're like, no, we'd like to just wait for our friend. And then when that person sat down, they were like, okay, you guys need to order now. And they're like, well, okay, well, are you ready? And then was like rushing, but openly showing this rushing, this hurry up, this we need your table, this we need you to go now. So who in that instance is right? The fact that If you're a customer, read the room, know they're busy, know that they have a lot of turnover and they can make money if you're not sitting here. Or the server that is like, hey, it's a Friday night. People are coming to dinner, to have drinks, to talk, to relax. It's a night out. Don't be rude and make them feel rushed. Whose side are you on? Or should both people just consider each other?
You enter into the averages game.
Okay.
Where that seat occupies a revenue source. In an hour, how much money can I make on the seat that is ordering food? And if you're waiting for 6 people and you're slow to order and you talk an hour after and you occupied for 6 hours, if they would have said, F you, get out of my restaurant, and I would have been able to seat 5 people in that seat, would I have been able to make more money with that seat? You're devalued because you're a low revenue source. And if I kick you out because you're a low revenue source, that's good for business.
Yeah, I think some people, I've seen certain situations where displeasing one customer is probably better for your business than humoring them and working with them.
100%.
And some people will then say, but what happens if that one customer leaves you bad reviews or bad mouths you on
Doesn't matter.
town?
Like those customers that are really hard to please and really high maintenance are the worst.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, the ecosystem of business right now is a lot of high maintenance customers.
Yeah.
So if you had so you're a business owner and you have 10 people at your front desk and you get to choose which one that you pay attention to. Do you pay attention to the ones that are low maintenance, high revenue, or low revenue, high maintenance? People will respect the fact that you take people that nickel dime you and complain a whole lot and are hard to serve and stay too long and just are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And you get rid of them. Like you come up with reasons not to serve the high maintenance people.
It was cool, that job that I mentioned where when I went to leave and tore up the resignation letter and all that, we had a person that came in that was very difficult, very demanding, had no business being that demanding, was clearly in the wrong when they were demanding these things. And it was so funny because obviously the owner and I, we worked closely, that they knew that I was a good employee. They knew I didn't do things unnecessarily. So if I had an issue, there was an issue. And I remember this person saying, oh, do I need to call so-and-so, calling the owner by their first name? Do I need to call them about this? And I said, yeah, you probably should. Like, I dare you, by all means, please call them. Want me to dial for you?
Yeah.
But.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when you have faith and trust in the marketplace, it doesn't have the ability to bullshit. So when you say, I am a floor sweeper at General Motors and $90 an hour is what I am. I'm the best floor sweeper at General Motors. Then not above you or below you is anything that will unseat you. And that is sort of like the equilibrium that I'm talking about. Like there's no way to unseat that. But if you are in a position that's making $10 an hour in revenue and you are making $9 an hour in liability, you can't argue against that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you are costing more than the revenue that is in front of you. And so that's why like market forces are the most honest, because if there's somebody willing to work at $30 an hour to sweep the floors, $30 is the real value of doing that, that position. But the safe, secure, special deals are ones that take the marketplace and they elevate it to a level that there's nobody who would want to do that job for less. And you would just run out of people, and it would it would almost self-correct. So if there was a Amazon delivery driver that wanted to make more money, and across the board there weren't any Amazon drivers that wanted to work for what the current rate was, then you just open the line. And if there are more people willing to do the job at the same level the person that's doing it, then it's equal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And how many people, I wonder too, are pushing that I need more money, and maybe not only are not sort of towing their own earning what they make, but sure as hell don't do enough to earn even more. You know, like, well, what are you going to give me for value to give you more money? How are you justifying that?
That's a negotiation.
Yeah.
Where you say, hey, I want to make more money, and here's what I'm willing to give up to make more money. That's a negotiation. It's like, I'm going to do the same thing I did yesterday, right? And I want more money. Then I'm going to look at the next guy in line to see if he wants to do the same thing that you're doing for the same amount of money. And if that's equal, as long as I have that option, then I'm like, okay, well, thank you for your service. Let me go to the number 93 in the line. That is an authentic, honest, sort of like evaluation of the marketplace. If there's a person willing to do what you're willing to do for equal or less, and if it's authentic, then let them do it. If it's not equal, then you'll know in 10 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really all that, we ask for from Amazon drivers or UPS drivers, all service-oriented jobs, whether or not they're providing a level of service that we're willing to pay for at equal to what we're paying for. So if I'm giving a $20 tip on a restaurant deal and you're like, that's awesome, I'll do this again, right? And if you give me a $10 tip, I don't want to do this again, then you bow out and let the person come in that is willing to do that service. A special deal is when we take out the $10 a meal job and force it to be the one that doesn't have market forces.
You know what's so interesting too about this being specifically Amazon is you're doing, like you said, what kind of a monster would do something like this at Christmas time when people know that packages and deliveries are high right now? But the amount of times I have had Amazon screw up a delivery, either put our package somewhere else, give us other people's packages, just lose stuff, just leave it when no one's there, just whatever. And it's like, so now you're pissing off your customers twice. It's, hey, one, I'm going to stick it to you and make my business dealings your problem when it's the most inconvenient for you, and I'm not even that great at my job. So now you're really going to be irritated with me.
But what would market forces do to that?
Market forces.
So you're willing to pay more than $2.99 per shipment to get Prime delivery to get them accurate, and then they get to invite people who are willing to work for more because you're more willing to spend as a consumer, right? Are you okay with $2.99 and having some things jacked up every once in a while?
I don't know. Me personally.
$5 a package. And it means that I'm going to pay the delivery driver more than they're making right now, which means that maybe a higher caliber of person is concentrating on making sure that you get delivered packages the way they are.
If I knew it was a higher caliber of person or something put in place or something that was going to make it better, then I would consider more. But yeah,
Okay, so if they had two levels, they had Amazon Prime and they had Amazon Prime Proficient. And if you went with Prime, it was $3 a delivery. And it might get there, it might not. But if you did $5 for Prime Proficient, it would be someone that you knew was making double the amount of wages and did less packages, but made sure that they were completely accurate. Would you pay the $5 instead of the $3?
If it were something important, probably. If it was something I could wait, no. But
So the union comes to the table and says, let's have people who are serious about their jobs and people who, take the volume and lower wage, and you get to choose as an Amazon employee.
because I'll be honest, it's all sort of my observation because I actually don't have an Amazon account. I never have. But my husband does, and he orders a lot from Amazon. And I've seen him pay extra to get something in a timely manner. Like, I will pay extra if I can get this by tomorrow or something he needed. And he still doesn't. And he calls and he's like, where's my thing? Oh, well, it's taking longer than expected. He's like, well, do I get a refund? I paid extra to get it here. So, yeah, you better know what you are negotiating with and have that value, have that worth.
Yeah, as a consumer, like if you paid for Fast Pass and you went to an amusement park, you paid an extra $150 to not wait.
Yeah.
And then you got in a line that was equal to the line that the regular people paid for, those regular people,
Peons.
those peons,
God.
those serfs. Would you be pissed that you paid a premium for something that was supposed to be better service than the peons were receiving?
Oh, yeah, it better be better if I'm paying extra.
You'd expect better, right?
Yeah.
And that, like I said, that is the premise of negotiation. Where if I can sit in front of you and demand more of the GM floor sweeper for a rate that's better than most,
Yeah.
and I get that, then we'll do that deal all day long.
Yeah.
But if it's the other side where we're going to do mediocrity and we're going to make it cost a whole lot, that's where the market's like, time out. Like, it's not that great in the first place. Like, I pay this money and it's not awesome. And the delivery drivers are sucking and the product is mediocre, but the company is making more money for it. Let's renegotiate. So that's the part. And I was hoping in your devil's advocacy that we go down this path, because there is a certain responsibility for the company to be able to provide something in relation if the union and the workers were really good at negotiating. But if it's so long, it's like, let's make a bunch of money and let's leverage you over Billy's Christmas experience, then you have what we have right now, which is mediocre service, but at an inflated rate, and then everybody's disappointed. But if it's consumer-based, where the consumers know this, and if they would take what they experience from going to the restaurant, what they're willing to pay and what's a good market value, and what they're willing to trade for getting an experience. So if you're willing to pay $20 more for Amazon Prime to get a better experience, and you get the net better experience, it's a great transaction. Mm-hmm. But if you pay an elevated rate and you get mediocre service, then you're pissed off. And if the company pays a bunch of money and they get mediocre service, they're pissed off. And if the workers provide good service and they get mediocre rate, they're pissed off. But it takes all three of the legs of this stool in order to make everybody happy. You do not have to have a villain in this. You don't have to have somebody losing in order for the other groups to win. So you have the consumer who gets an elevated but pays an elevated. Mm-hmm. You have the worker that gives elevated but makes elevated. And you have the company that charges extra but gets extra. Everybody gets to be happy. It's only when somebody gets selfish and tries to get a sweet deal or something for nothing that the whole program degrades.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And you see that in all kinds of businesses. Like, I've used, I don't know, it was one of those like DoorDash or Waiter apps or something, which obviously I think most by now people know when you get your food delivered like that, you're paying more than if you just went to the store and got it. Same with grocery delivery, whatever, it can be that way. And there have been times where I'm like, you know what? I really can't get out. I really have this crap going on. I need to order some food. I will pay more for this service. It is worth it to me. It is valuable to me. I will give you more money. You bring this service, this food, whatever to me. And if it's wrong or never shows or any of this, and you call the company and they're like, well, sorry. We did what we needed to do. We fulfilled our obligation. I had that happen once. They said, well, they left the food outside. Outside where? Not my address. You guys didn't complete this transaction. Well, they left it outside. There's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, what? Meanwhile, that driver wants more money. The business wants to make more money. I'm now screwed. So whose fault is it? Who dropped the ball? Whereas, get me a competent driver, a competent company.
And you're willing to pay more for doing that.
Yes.
100%.
Yep. I want to know that if I am paying more for a convenience, for a service, that I am going to complete that transaction and be happy. And I will. There's lots of things that I will pay ridiculous money for because I hold value in it. And if that does not come through, oh, no, I'm pissed.
Authentic. Like, honestly, every consumer knows that what needs to be done, right? If you want to make more money as an Amazon driver, your best bet is not to hold Billy's package for Christmas hostage so that you get more money. That does not give a good resonance from the person on the receiving end of your service. It says that you're more important than me. And Billy's sadness, right, is just a price to pay because I want more.
Yeah, and then you know what happens or what should happen? Then people stop using your service and go local and get things locally, and now we don't even need you. So now what? Now are you going to be out of a job or paid even less than you were because you decided to take that risk in negotiating more? Now you pissed off more people, and now you're going to be gone anyways.
That is the most anti-union rant that I've ever seen. You just made the argument against free market and giving good value. I mean, you ever look, you drive by a road crew and there's like one guy doing work and 10 guys watching him. Right? That is not giving good value to the taxpayer, right?
Yeah.
But there are sweet deals that exist all around us that we know, like if we were paying for that, quarter mile of road to get done, how would we want the people that were providing the service to behave? As a taxpayer, you are doing that road. And how would you, if you're on that job site now, there's 10 people there, how would you tell people what to do? Like, you're sitting here doing absolutely nothing. Are you necessary at $30 an hour that adds to the workload and the cost? Sitting there having a conversation with, employee ABC, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if we don't look at those things, those are the sweet deal things that we're disconnected from. But we're paying for that as consumers. But just like you would think about the restaurant or the Prime delivery or whatever, we got to have those same standards and let the market forces say, would I pay a person to come and sweep out my garage for $90 an hour when there are 1,000 people willing to do it for $20 an hour? Would I do that? Well, the unions would say $90 an hour is the more virtuous thing to do. But would I do it when it meant that I was actually paying for it? And do I want an inflated value on someone who is absolutely not obligated or have any, sort of like incentive to give you more than what it was costing you?
I think so many people just assume that they are owed something for nothing.
Yes.
Like I hold a job, so I should get a bunch of benefits from this job just for me showing up.
So what should it be? Give me the definition. In a true market environment, you have an output and you are entitled to a percentage of your output, right?
Yeah.
So I see this question on a regular basis about shorter hours and less days of working.
Oh, like
and
the 4-day work week and okay.
Totally support this. So if you could take a group of people and let's just say a 40-hour work week that maybe is 60% efficient, where 60% of the workday gets value for the company and 40% is just blow off and whatever. If we shrink it down to 50% and make a 4-day, if we can make it 100% in the 40 or 20 hours that you work and 20%, like now you could be at home blowing off anything and not being paid for it, would that not be advantageous for the marketplace? There would be more people that would be required to come in to do productive work versus this 50% efficiency workforce. Wouldn't that be a better deal for the marketplace?
Yeah. My dad actually, when I was a kid, I remember thinking, and he was an attorney. It's not like he had to sit at a business that had 9 to 5 hours or anything. But I would go to school and he wasn't even dressed yet for work. Like wasn't even leaving for a bit. And by the time I came home from school, he had already gone to work and come back and he was already home. And I used to be like, how do you work such short days? How is it you're still here when I leave and you're here when I come back? And he's like, I go in, I get my work done, I come home. I go in, I get my work done, I come home. Because if you go in and you give the value, I mean,
That is a
what's
fair
sitting there for
trade.
nothing? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'll always entertain that philosophy. But it always comes down to something for nothing. Like if you were, let's just say you were working an 8-hour day and you were 50% efficient. We're doing 50% work for the company and 50% you were really just milking the clock and getting paid for stuff that wasn't valuable. And all of a sudden you worked 4 hours, but you went in for 4 hours and you did all the same stuff that you did. How much are you owed?
Should be owed what you actually worked for.
50% of what you were
Yeah.
making before? We can cut efficiency down.
I mean, everybody does it, but
Value wise,
Fair.
if we're talking just
Yeah.
value wise, if you were the consumer, you would want to pay for what you were getting and not paying for stuff that you weren't getting.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. My husband has now been burned twice by there's a local pharmacy. And twice now he has gone in and it's around like 1:30 they go to lunch. They must take like an offset, most people I guess go into pharmacies on their lunch break, so they don't leave at noon, but they leave at 1:30. And this keeps happening to him. He goes in for a prescription. And in one case, the prescription was ready, sitting there. Can you just give it to me? No, we're about to go on lunch. Okay, well, you're about to, but it's right there. Can you just give it to me? No, because we're now going on lunch. All of you? All of us. Not one of you can stay back and just hand me my prescription that I really need. No, you'll have to come back later and get it. If you owned that pharmacy, what would your take on that be?
Sweet deal. Like you get paid regardless if you give good service or not. And for having someone be inconvenienced should cost you. Right?
Yeah,
Bad
yeah.
decisions should have repercussions. Just like we started this conversation about it. Like there should be, if you don't take the coat out and you're cold, you should feel the cold. So bad behaviors should have some kind of consequence, right?
Yeah.
So if I came in to buy your chicken, off your menu and sit at your seat, if you did it, there should be a reward. And if you didn't do it, there should be a consequence. You should feel like I want to give people their chicken because they came in and it's hard to come by to have a customer in the first place. But if I'm like, doctor's offices, like they're shit on my list, right?
Yeah.
What other business, whatever industry will make you sit in a waiting room, right? Waiting for
forever.
your perfect spot to go see a pill dealer
That you were told to show up 15 minutes early for.
and they don't even see you until
Yeah.
45 minutes after your suggested time.
Yeah.
What's the consequence in that? They will always do that because they're filling segments of their day,
Yeah.
and you are the fallout from that.
Oh, yeah. I went to a doctor's appointment once. Same deal. Show up so many minutes early. Get here by this time. I did it. I'm early. I'm checked in. I'm good to go. 45 minutes go by. I'm still waiting. I finally get someone call me. I'm like, oh my God, finally. We go back just so they can say, Doc got called to an emergency. We're going to have to reschedule you. And I'm just like, where's my copay?
Yeah. So yeah.
What do I get reimbursed?
Here it is. Here's how the market would treat that. You schedule a 1:00 appointment, and it's for 1 hour or a half hour or whatever it is, and their billing starts at 1:00 and ends at 2:00, and your billing starts at 2:00 and beyond. So if they see you late, it's going to cost them money. If they see you on time, like there's inspiration, there's motivation, there's a reason to stay on schedule. If
Yeah.
it's your fault, right? You'll
Yeah.
gladly pay. What would happen if they made you sit 45 minutes, but they were paying you $100 an hour to wait in their lobby?
I'll sit
You'd be
all
like,
day
I'll
long.
freaking sit all day
Yes.
long. But so long that they make you sit for free, they will take their good ass time to be able to get
Yep.
to you. And that's how the market treats the sweet deals, is that there's no motivation to see you faster.
Oh, I once had a company, and thank God I didn't take off work and wait. Luckily, my husband was already off that day. It was like a flooring company or somebody had to come out to our house and fix something. And we get the old, we'll be there between 9 and 10, 9 and 11 a.m., whatever. Hours go by. Nothing. No phone call, nothing. All day passes, and they call us and say, hey, we didn't get a chance to get to you. Clearly, obviously, we're going to have to reschedule. I'm like, so if I had lost a day of work because I sat here literally all day and you just decide, sorry, we didn't make it, what do I get? Nothing.
But what if $100 an hour for you to wait for them if they miss their appointment? It would change the dynamic.
Yeah, I
It
should
would
have been
make-
like, no problem. Guys, let's reschedule, but you'll get my invoice in the mail.
Exactly.
Because you cost me a
So
day
someone
here.
comes and knocks on your door and wants to sell you something, right? And then you have Kellen's door answering service that charges $100 to answer people coming to your door. And you hand them an invoice that says, I'll listen to your spiel, but this is what I do for a living. You owe me $100, right? It
Yeah.
would change the dynamic by putting pressures on something. Somebody is getting something for nothing. They're going to waste your time
Yep.
and give you their spiel unless they're paying for it. And that's really the true market, is when somebody's time or value is being minimized and somebody else is getting a sweet deal absolutely for free. And that's
He should have done that with this stinking pharmacy because they did it to him again just the other day.
you wouldn't care. You
Yeah.
absolutely wouldn't care.
Oh, and then they told him,
Take your time.
Well,
I'm doing $100 an hour in
they
your
said,
waiting room.
At 1:10, we get a text message. We've received your prescription. At 1:10, he shows up a couple minutes before 1:30 to pick it up. And they're like, no, you'll have to come back. We're going to lunch. When do you get back from lunch? 2:00. Great. So he hangs out there for a half hour. 2:00. Can I get my prescription now? It's not ready yet, and it's going to be at least an hour. Are you shitting me? Sorry, it's going to be at least an hour. We'll call you when it's ready. He leaves, and in 15 minutes, they message, hey, it's ready. And he has to come all the way back. I would have been like, bring an invoice. This is what you just cost me on this bullshit.
That's what people have to do. They have to know the value of what they're charging for and what they're getting for free. And doctors' offices and those service industries think that you're just at their beck and call.
Mm-hmm.
And once you put a value, a price on that, they'll start changing the way that they maneuver around you. And that's why I say, like, the fair marketplace means that I'm not pro-capitalism and company, and I'm not pro-consumer. I am pro-equal value. And so long that we can negotiate, I say, do what I say I'm going to do, and you do what you say you're going to do, we have a great relationship. But the minute that somebody decides that they want more, right?
Yeah.
And break the obligation, then it's a new negotiation. Then
Yeah.
it's, let's go back to the actual table. So if you were willing to drive for $15 an hour before, and now you want $20 an hour before, that's a different thing. And I'm going to say, you get to say, hey, I want 25% more in what I make. And then you as a consumer could say, well, I want 25% more in the services that you render. And now we have a
Yeah.
starting point.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're going to go on strike. Well, I want my package faster. I want you
That's
to
exactly
never
right.
mess
I want
it
you
up.
to smile at me. I want you to leave me a love note. I want you to do something more
Yep.
to justify your increased cost. And then if you do that, we've got a new
You're
negotiation.
going to leave it on my front porch. You're going to carry it in and open it for me.
Whatever it is. And if you're willing to pay $50 an hour for that and a more per package delivery fee, then you're not looking to get something for nothing and they're not looking to get something for nothing. It's only when somebody wants to get more for not giving any more services that I have
Yeah.
any kind.
And I feel like that is just rampant. That is the epitome of
100%.
human nature is I want more for not doing anymore.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
yeah.
most of the time it's less. Like, I want to do less and make more. And that's where these unions, they push on this and say, just because, this dude is like, unhappy that we need to give him more. Not the case.
Yeah.
It's a value proposition. Here's what my person is willing to do more to get more money, and then we'll talk all day long.
Or how about where they think just the amount of time they are spending in a place, in a workplace, should equal what they're making. Well, I was here all day. Doing what? If you were playing on your phone or twiddling your thumbs or hanging out chatting and maybe taking an extra long lunch break, just because you were here, do you get more money? I see that a lot too. People are like, oh, well, I worked from this time to this time and I'm here all the time. I should get more money. Really? What did you bring in that? Nothing. So you actually cost the business more by supplying things like a building, a location, operating hours, your pay for nothing in return. So why does that feel like you should get more? When do you think, devil's advocate, someone should be paid more for their time? Is it only when that time is valuable and shows value?
It's the breakup. It's if we were to break up, if there was a bigger, better deal on the other side of you. And I think everybody should be able to break up on a regular basis so that they know their true value. Was it me that wasn't extending myself into the relationship? Was the other person taking for granted part of the relationship? And it's not always better.
How do you feel about, and I don't know if Amazon does this or not, I guess when you talk about like, oh, people should sort of almost check in or break up or see.
Yeah.
How about when businesses do like annual reviews? I used to work somewhere where you had an annual review every year. What was going well? What needs improvement? Overall, how's it going? And some businesses, you got a raise at that point because they were actually looking at something, or maybe you didn't. And how do you feel about that kind of stuff?
That's the breakup. Like that's sort of like an incremental one step down where you kind of like pretend like you don't have a relationship if you invite that person back into your life. And so like, let's just say take your relationship and say, let's divorce you on a moment. I'm going to take XYZ person. Would I hire this version right now at their same level? Would I be just as eager to come into it? That's what really essentially it is. So if you were to say, before Amazon, I had to go to the store and walk around Walmart and pick out all these things, and it cost me $100. So I'm going to go there, do the thing that Amazon's been doing for me, experience the cost and the time and the inconvenience, and then take what the cost is. And it's like, okay, well, I look back and say, I didn't have to go to Target, but it cost me $900 extra to be able to go and do the Amazon thing. Is the $900 difference, right? Is it valuable enough for me to keep doing Amazon? It's like, that's not $900. Like, I would eagerly go into Target, buy that stuff. It'd save me $900. And then you get the choice between those two things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like during that honeymoon phase, especially we're talking about Amazon, it was fast delivery and it was equally as expensive as if you went to the store. So you'd be stupid. So if you bought paper towels for $1.99 and you went to Amazon and it was $1.99 and it cost you $2.99 to ship 50 items that you bought, you're like, I just saved myself a trip to the store. But 2 years in the future, Amazon was like, I don't want to make it $1.99 anymore. I'm going to make it $4.99. And then you look at that bill, you're like, oh, that's my real cost? Like, it's not the same as if I went to Target. Now the advantage is on going to Target, and I'll just go do that. I'll spend an hour, save myself $900, give myself a wage of $900 per hour.
Strengthen your local economy.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, both on the consumer side and the corporate side, they both do it. Corporate side or consumer side, they take for granted things that they should have been valuing. And the corporate side, like if I'm a doctor and you just took off work to come, or I'm a, internet service provider and I schedule a time from noon and I don't get there till 4, like I got to value that. And if you let me into your house and you buy my product, should I show up on time? And if I value that, then you keep doing business with me. If not, we break up and you go somewhere else.
I want to start asking businesses that now. If I have someone coming, like, I don't know, heating and air or plumber or whatever, somebody that says we will be there between this time and have your issue fixed, I'm going to say, okay, great. If you're not, what do I get?
Yes. Free service. Or
is it like shows up in 30 minutes or it's free?
Exactly.
Wonder what they would say.
And that's an important point, because the conversations that happens on the other side of that question will kind of illustrate both the union side, right, and the corporate side, and they will say exactly the same thing. They will tell you how hard their job is, how the logistics are. You don't understand how big our plight is, and they'll make it seem like what they're doing for you is so gargantuan that you have no other options. Like this is something that's sublime that you should really have a lot of respect for, until you freaking break up and find out how it wasn't sublime, it wasn't unique, and if you just tried a little bit, right, you can connect with the consumer and let them know that you value. But the doctor's office, they don't give two shits about you. When they've got a whole line of 500 clients that they have to even turn one away, you wait in 2 hours in my waiting room, my lobby, they don't give two shits. You're replaceable as shit.
Yeah.
Until there's only one person in their lobby, and they're like, oh, like, we value our customers, and we got to up our service to get more people in our lobby. But the reason people are in our lobby is because we make them sit there in an endless cycle of sitting in our lobby because we didn't value them.
Yep.
And that's why I say I'm not on the side of consumer or corporate, because corporations have the same devaluation of customers. When you think you have an infinite number of them, you don't value them, you take advantage of them. So is it that Amazon said, we've got so many people that are willing to work these delivery trucks that we don't need to give you a $60 raise when you're working for $30. We've got 5,000 other people. If that's the case, and you do have a lobby of people willing to be inconvenienced by whatever you're willing to pay them, then so be it. But there will be a day when you do not. And what are you willing to do to entice the next generation to come and be customers of yours?
I remember years ago, I was talking to a woman who at the time worked for Walmart. And I asked her, I said, I've got to know, why is it all of the checkout lines are so long? You guys will only open like 5 of 20 registers, and we wait forever. Why don't you open more registers? And she's like, you want to know why? And I said, yeah. She's like, because you'll wait. We know you'll wait. She's like, why would we even argue with the multiple employees that call off or don't show up to work? She's like, because ultimately that's why there's not more open. But we're not even going to try to fight with them, try to get them in, try to hire more. Why? You will wait. So we'll work on 5 and we'll make just as much money. And I'm just like, dang it.
So, okay, if we said doctor's offices, you'll wait until 5 minutes into your appointment. If they have not brought you back there, you leave. How quickly would they change the model when all their customers bail out after they're late by 5 minutes on their appointment? I did what I was supposed to do. I showed up on time. I signed out the paperwork. I waited 5 minutes. You didn't see me. I bailed. How quickly before they would change it so they would see you within 5 minutes of your appointment? That's what the marketplace rewards. But it's so long that you'll wait 2 hours for that doctor and just complain about it to your other people. They're not going to change because you're still paying the bill.
Man, this is so making me appreciate my doctor's office. I don't go very often. But typically, this newer place that I've been going to, if you have an appointment, I'm not kidding. I have left work, gone to the doctor's, seen the doctor, and gotten back. I'm talking desk chair to desk chair in an hour.
They get it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I sat down. Kellen, you can come. Oh, okay. Right on back. And when that happens, I will pay you whatever you want.
Yeah.
You give me that good value, I will pay for it. I will refer you to people.
Let me give you two scenarios. And as an IT person, I went into many doctor's offices.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And doctor's offices are very comfortable about just making people wait. And so as an IT representative walking into a doctor's office, and I go up to the reception and I say, "Hey, I'm Joe from, I'm going to do your IT work today." And they're like, "If you have a seat, the doctor will be with you in a moment." And I'll say, "I'll tell you, I'm not a guy that waits in a lobby. Your billing has started right now. How quickly, when you're charging them, that they figure their shit out to get you working on something, if consumers had the ability to have that same kind of value, it would work itself out."
Yeah, that would be amazing. If you're like, well, I'm not a patient, I'm a service provider, and
your billing has begun.
I'm on the clock.
Yeah, 1 o'clock. You said I should come here at 1, and I got here at 1. Your billing has begun. Like, how quickly they figure out how to get you working.
What if a patient says, "Look, I'm on my lunch break. I don't have the day off. I need in and out."
How quickly would they get to you? Yeah. Some doctors would be completely considerate of their time, and some would be like that Walmart. Like, we know your wait, so we'll just keep you out there waiting.
Okay, so devil's advocate.
Yep.
They say, "Look, everybody here is on their lunch break. Everybody needs in and out. We can't possibly see everyone that quickly. Or we will, but you're not going to get very good care because we're going to rush through it."
You tell me that on the phone, and I'll pick somebody else. And then you will figure that shit out when there's nobody waiting in your lobby, and you've got the 12 o'clock there. I'm like, we're not serving the lunch people very well. We got to figure our shit out so we can serve them better.
Kind of like, here's a new idea. The entire staff will not go on lunch at the same time, thus closing our business.
We allow that because we are being more considerate with the people providing the service than the people consuming the service.
Yeah.
And this Amazon thing is about the people, Billy, who wakes up on Christmas Eve and doesn't get the gift that his parents ordered from him because some shithead union boss decided that they were going to use Billy as leverage for what they wanted to get. And then Billy better be super outspoken about how that union is not serving the consumer well. So what are they in for? They're in for what the worker makes, not what the consumer experiences when being served by that employee. And that is only half the equation. All right, I got another shithead.
Another shithead. Okay.
You ready? Keep drinking that. Like, you're on your first glass. I'm on my second glass. Is it stingy?
It just tastes so bad. But it's
Why are
good.
you doing it then?
Because I need it. Because of all the shitheads.
The shitheads have brought you to this moment.
Yes.
You got a roadway.
Okay.
And this ties in with the Amazon thing. You got a roadway. And a bunch of environmentalists, they decide that you stopping in traffic, they're going to align themselves so they block your traffic so that you cannot go where you're needing to get to.
Protesters?
Protesters. They put on their orange vests, they sit across the road,
Heck,
they block you.
no, we won't go.
And now you, who have places to be, are looking at this little, activists sitting in front of you that are depriving you, have nothing to do with what they're pissed off about.
Yeah.
But now they're going to inconvenience you because of what they believe in. They're making a spectacle of themselves. Do you run them over and make the blood on the road? Or do you get out of your car and drag them off to the side? Or you just sit there as a victim of this tyrannical activist group?
Me personally, I'm going to try to turn around and go the other way, and if I can't...
How do you feel about these people who are delaying you from being...
I don't like them at the time.
But they think they're resonating with you. They think their cause is so justified that making you late for wherever you got to be is more important.
You being late is not that important, yeah.
To them? Hell no.
We're trying to save the environment or whatever.
So you're passive. You're a nurturing, nice person. And so
don't like confrontation.
You're not going to run them over and make them splatter on the road. And you're not going to drag them off to the side of the road. Yeah. What you're going to do is you're going to look to the authorities to right the situation and make all things just and legal happen in front of you. Mm-hmm. So you're going to wait for a law enforcement officer to drag them off the road so you can get to work. Because that's the sort of like the negotiated agreement with law enforcement is that you're not going to be held to account for something you have nothing to do with. You're just trying to get to your deal. But that activist wants you to be pissed off at who? Are you pissed off at the
entity they're protesting?
Are you pissed off at oil and gas? Or are you pissed off at the liberal blue-haired person who wanted to make you late for whatever you got?
Hair is blue.
Totally blue.
I'm pissed off at the person who's actively in my way at this moment. Yeah. The blue-haired person.
More.
Yeah, I want them out of my way. I want the police to...
Have you ever been in this scenario? Have you ever been blocked by someone whose cause was more important than your own?
Not like an activist situation, just like maybe like someone driving ridiculously slow and you can't get around them. And they're clearly like, hey, I'm uncomfortable and I'm going to go very slow, or I'm going to drive like a maniac and swerve or whatever. Maybe that is like, I now am stuck because of your choices. Or they caused an accident. I'm now behind an accident because you weren't being careful. I don't know if I've ever been in this situation.
You leave here and you get on 680, and right after the exit, you come across people sitting across the street, blocking your traffic. You come to a full stop. Now you're depriving me of the value that you can add because you're sitting in traffic. Might be different than if you were on the way to a birthday party or somewhere you wanted to go, and there's this dipshit in front of you that says they are more important to they're more important than where you have to get. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about them?
I don't like them. I'd probably roll down my window and be like, can I please get through? Can you guys just let me, I got to get to work. Can you just let me through? That's what I would do. And I would not like them.
And they say, no, you're gas guzzling. You're basically all of the evils, devil incarnate. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would probably call the police.
Call the police. Yeah. And what if you saw the police wander out onto the road and say, it's their First Amendment right to express themselves by making you late? Now, how would you feel about the authoritarians?
No, I don't like them either.
Okay, so now the orange vested people are shit to you.
Yeah.
The police who are just letting stuff. By the way, to call back to the Amazon thing, in New York, the picketers are on the sidewalks, but they are also blocking the delivery drivers from exiting the parking garage. And they're only allowing one van out every 5 minutes.
Oh, so you're saying they're blocking the people that choose not to picket. They're like, no, I'm going to keep working. And they're like, no, you won't. Yeah,
standing in front of those, and they're only letting one. And police officers, the people who we trust to enforce justice and authority, are watching this go down and allowing it to happen. So then your faith in justice erodes down to the point like, why aren't these people being pulled off of the exit of this parking garage?
Yeah, like by all means, protest, stand out here, call your congressman, talk to people, get signatures, do all these things. Just get out of the way of the people that are not part of this. Yeah.
But that's the origin of this discussion, is if you have a leverage point where you can take Billy's Christmas and deprive him of the Christmas for your cause, then you also deprive the delivery driver to getting out on his route. You also deprive the
customers getting stuff, and yeah. And that's the thing is, when I say devil's advocate, like, yes, I would be pissed off. I want them out of the way. If I happen to be one of those protesters and I know nobody is going to consider this cause or this issue that we are upset about unless we make it an inconvenience for them.
But until you're used as that leverage where you and where you were going was inconsequential to the person that's in the orange vest sitting in front of you, you won't understand that, there's somebody in every protest when it goes to this level where we take somebody's rights away to do their thing. Like if you have the ability to deprive somebody, you have the ability to deprive of somebody in your waiting room of 2 hours of their day because you couldn't formulate a schedule, right? Then you leaned on that ability and you exploited them for their willingness to wait. If you're at Walmart and you're willing to wait 45 minutes to go through a checkout, you were exploited by a company that didn't care that and knows that you'll totally tolerate
I
that.
feel like I mentioned this when there was those port strikes recently.
It's coming up again in
And
February or
yeah,
January.
and people weren't getting things they needed. And I'm like, I don't care how much you're making. I need my stuff. Let
Do
'em
your
through.
fucking job.
Yes.
100%.
Like, surely there is a better way to get to the negotiating table than making people who have nothing to do with this suffer.
Well, and
Clearly, they don't think so.
That's why it's an important example, because the closer you are to it, the more you understand. The more you're in the waiting room, you understand that you're being exploited. The Amazon drivers, the legislators in Washington, all the way up to the dock workers in the importations to America. All of them, anytime there is a sweet deal where somebody's not interested in exchange of value with the consumer, you're going to have that exploitation. Whether or not it's directly experienced, like the waiting room, or indirectly experienced, like, the workers of Prime delivery. It's still the same formulation where somebody sat there and said, here's my value. Here's the exchange of value from another person. I'm going to take more than I'm giving. That's really what it comes down to. So if you had a legislator that was being paid $300,000, what are your expectations from a legislature? Do you think working 100 days, passing legislation, adding to the economy, minimizing inflation, supporting other, like, what is the actual value that person owes to you for the $300,000 as a taxpayer that you're giving to them? If you don't know, then they're going to be paid. They're going to do a subpar job, and then they are equal to the waiting room in the doctor's office where we'll all deal with it and say, oh, $300,000. You are a shithead. You have you're as dumb as a box of rocks, but let's pay you $300,000 again, just like Walmart, just like the doctor's office.
Yep. This is making me think of another topic.
Do it.
And a question that I have for you. I'm curious. I'm still hearing about this idea of tariffs.
Yeah.
And Trump coming in and putting tariffs on other country. And it's a bit controversial where people are like, oh, well, who's going to have to pay for those tariffs? The American people are, yada, yada, yada. I recently had someone at work say, you better start ordering and stocking up on things you need now, because these tariffs are coming. And I just said, okay, all right, have a good day. What say you to somebody who says that?
I love it, because anything that could be made in the United States at a disadvantage before now has the advantage. So do you, okay, so you let's just say your neighborhood. You go to all your neighbors and you figure out what they do for a living. And you say, I'm going to support all my neighbors, and I'm going to make sure that I buy, like, if one's an investment broker and one works at XYZ, I'm going to make sure that people in my neighborhood I'm supporting. Mm-hmm. Versus you were able to take your shopping and you were to outsource it to someone who you didn't know who they were, and they were giving you a good price, but you didn't care where they lived or what their family was like or what their values were or whatever. And so on the short term, it is a huge disadvantage financially. It is going to cost you more to buy products from your neighbors than from people who are in other countries that have completely different regulations, that have completely different cultures. So as a consumer, that absolutely sucks. If you can buy a $1 widget in China and it costs you $20 to have the same thing made in the United States, That sucks from how far your money goes. But if that money ends up with your neighbor who lives in your same neighborhood, they can spend it locally. They could buy it locally. And if you do that on a long enough time scale, you prop up the people you care about instead of going to another nation that plays by a completely different set of rule sets and benefit from the, I don't know what to call it. It's the opposite of prosperity. It's the bottom side of the barrel, getting something for the app. Okay, so you did an event and you had to buy New Year's Eve horns, right?
Oh, the noisemakers?
The noisemakers.
Yeah.
And you wanted to make sure that any money that you spent ended up in your community. Mm-hmm. So you had the option. Go to China and spend $1 per noisemaker, or go to your own development and spend $10 a more noisemaker. It would cost you more to spend $10 versus $1. But the difference is that money would go to the person that lives three doors down from you. And then they have the ability to able to spend it on other local community. And your whole development gets better because the money was kept within your community. Mm-hmm. Or do you take the bait and buy the one that was $9 cheaper, and that money goes to a country and is just sucked out of the economy that is local? And now your neighbor is suffering because he has a lack of business, but you got cheaper product in the end. Would you be willing to make the sacrifice to spend more money to give it to your local, someone that's in your local neighborhood? Or would you take the cheaper price for it to go out into the ether and never visit your neighborhood again?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it as we've all been in a situation where you have, I don't know, a relative, a little niece or nephew, a neighbor kid, a grandchild, whatever, selling something. Hey, I'm selling candy bars for band, or I'm selling these for our school trip to Washington, or whatever it is. Let's say it's candy bars for $1.50. When I know darn well I can just go to the store and get a candy bar for $1. Why would I buy it from you, kid, for $1.50? I can get it cheaper elsewhere. Why? Yep. Because you're supporting someone that you care about for a cause that is larger, that will help them and everyone else. So that's, like, people get it then. They get that situation. I get why I'm doing it small scale. But when it's big scale, they're like, oh, why would they're going to drive up prices of everything? Yeah, just like your grandkid drove up the price of a candy bar, but what came from it? Good things, helpful things, a prosperous future for him, for whatever this cause is they're raising money for. But you don't see that when it's like, oh, well, I might be inconvenienced now to pay a little more so that my country can reap the benefits rather than another country.
Value proposition. If you go to Walmart and buy that candy bar and you can get it for half the price at the person that's at your doorstep, like, there's an element of your brain that will, through charity giving, say that I'll pay more for that thing. But the nuts and bolts of what you purchase, if it ended up being double the amount, so you would say, no more China, I'm going Ohio. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to do it as a value proposition? Like, if it's just a commodity, you fill up your car with gas. It's a commodity, right? You don't value one gas station over another. Then you don't care if you fill up at Sheetz or Shell, right? It's just gas to you, right? Mm-hmm. But anything that's not a commodity, anything that has a person that's behind it, and you can support your local industry versus something that's on the international scale, then it inspires companies to be able to serve and give value back to the overall customer if the customer demands the value. So what would you... Okay, so, band person comes to your door. You can go to Walmart and buy for $1, or you can buy for the band person for $1.50. What would blow you away in value if the band person can offer you that was more than you can get at Walmart. That's the proper way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
If they wrote on the bar, "You're awesome and you can do this," it would be better than Walmart because they gave you a value that was better than what you can get at Walmart. Walmart doesn't care if you're going to be better.
They came to you and delivered it to you. You didn't have to go anywhere.
Exactly. So the value added and taking all of these sweet deal people and looking at it in a microcosm of like what value they're adding, and sort of like judging them based on if they added any value. So we'll use Amazon. We'll end the show based on Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon cost you X dollars today. It will cost you X dollars tomorrow. The only difference is that they had some kind of squabble that made your kid's delivery come after Christmas.
Ruined your Christmas.
Is it Amazon's fault? Is it the Teamster's fault? And what do they owe you for being inconvenienced for doing the one job, which is I order the shit and it comes to my doorway. Somebody came in between that transaction, and now what do they owe me for having done that? You go to the doctor's office and you schedule 1 o'clock and you get in the doctor's office at 1 o'clock versus at 2 o'clock, you're still wondering why you're not in the doctor's office at 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. What do they owe you? Got nothing.
I got nothing. They're not going to give you anything.
They don't care.
They don't.
We've decoupled the service of what we do, where even if you're I really appreciate that I ordered this thing and it came in one day, to the, oh shit, I ordered this thing and it came after Christmas. And we don't even know who to hold responsible for that, which is, the negotiation is, I've got 2-day Prime. If I order on the 24th, it gets here on the 26th. If I order on the 23rd, it gets here on the 25th. That's the negotiation behind what I have between what I'm willing to pay for and what I get in return.
Otherwise, I'm going to go get it locally and you all can lose your jobs.
Fuck you and local wins.
Yes.